Let me take my pants and all.
Yes, Adam Davis, he's young. Oh my God, so he's, does he has a chaperone?
Okay, that's good.
Really? You are happy. That's so good. I'm glad.
It's gonna be crowded.
I'm glad. Yes, of course.
Maybe here. What about the camera?
There.
I'll just move that, but can we get the screen back? Okay, maybe I can click share. Okay.
All right. Is he gonna start?
Yes.
Are we live?
To get the sound
Got
when
it.
they start.
Just say reclaim host again
If we can all mute ourselves on the Zoom.
to make sure we're live streaming again.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this session, Defining the Future of Sustainable Finance and Social and Environment Investments. Thank you for coming, and for those watching virtually on YouTube and Zoom around the world. If the speakers could please talk directly into the mic and share your presentations on Zoom once you come up to speak. Sustainable finance refers to the process of taking environmental, social, and governance considerations into account when making investment decisions in the financial sector, leading to more long-term investments in sustainable economic activities and projects. Today, we will hear from members of a number of sectors, and our speakers are Gemma Esteban Garrido, Global Head of ESG at IG4 Capital, Rodrigo Slaminski and Maria Rolim of the Rolim Law Firm, Bernard Brodek, CEO and founder of Wingy AG, Marlos Batista, CEO of Codex Holding, Edison Augusto Zanetti, CSO of Green Farm, João Paulo Ribeiro Santana, Executive Director of APPA, and Inigo Coquiera, CEO of Convive. So we'll first hear from Gemma of IG4 Capital.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here with all of you, and thank you very much for inviting us at the COP26. My name is Gemma, as the presenter said, I'm the head of global head of ESG at IG4 Capital. It's a private equity specialized on turning around companies through ESG, and I'll explain today how and which is our focus and how we're doing this. So let me first start with why we are all here, why we believe all on ESG. And there are some forces that are transformative, especially coming from new generations like millennials or Generation Z, that are asking us to play in a different world, in a different way. As you can see on the screen, 75% of adults today would consider a company mission and purpose before applying to a job. So that is a huge change from previously. And as you can see also now the top 500 Standard & Poor's companies value is based on intangibles. That's a huge transformation of our global economy in the last 20 years. And that means that things like related to ESG have to be taken into account. Especially in developed markets, like as you very well know in Europe and in the US, the regulators, and there are more a big push towards how this need to be regulated in the markets. As you very well know, European Union is a little bit leading the way, putting the SFR, the finance for asset managers, implementing the European taxonomy for all of us, the ones that are in the financial industry, to know what is a sustainable asset and how we should behave with that. Yeah, but this is not the case of the emerging market yet. And the challenge here is huge. In emerging markets, there are, companies and mostly are a weaker ESG approach or even a non-ESG approach at all. There need to be improve the governance metrics, the full ESG set, which is almost disappeared from many countries. So here, what we see here is that the transformational approach is hugely needed. And this morning, I've been in a session listening to Larry Fink, who you know that is the CEO of BlackRock. And he precisely said that ESG shouldn't be now focused only on public and big companies, because that is the easy way, yeah? So this 130 trillion needed, that finally we have a figure on that, needed for this huge transformation that is behind the whole of the COP26, need to be pushed also from bottom up and for the private capital, which is what we do, and precisely toward emerging markets, because you know that 2/3 of the global emissions are coming from emerging markets. So the challenge here is huge, yeah? So our approach on investing is, of course, not, we couldn't do a negative screen approach because we wouldn't invest in any of the companies that we invest in, right? So we try to especially to do the turnaround of that financial turnaround, but through ESG and through this transformational approach. So for example, as you can see on the screen, between $93 billion and $131 billion will be invested in Brazil until 2033 as part of the universalization of sanitation services. That, by the way, is one of the sectors in which we invest in. No, And for example, reducing deforestation prevents agricultural losses in the southern Brazilian Amazon of up to $1 billion annually. So there is a huge opportunity and a huge challenge in front of us. So what we believe and what we, the approach that we are doing for tackling this challenge is what we call ESG in action. ESG in action for us means that we need to change in a way the way in which capitalism is understood. We need to push, especially for us as a private equity company that manage companies, that change dramatically the way in which those companies are managed and are focused on. We need to really put in place a full and a very strong ESG program. Yeah, that is what we do. So first, what we do is not only tying around and trying to change the financial structure of companies that are maybe in problems, so that are distressed, but also putting a strong ESG agenda so that all of this change and this transformation happens. As you can see on the screen, we have a strong, I would say, and for emerging markets, it's a very challenging ESG program. Tackling the three letters, because this is not only about emissions, but it's, and I've been hearing and listening this morning, the way in which when you tackle the environmental challenge, the social challenge is also very much linked to that. Yeah, so how you transform or you go through against deforestation means that you need to know and to understand the social impact of that also. That is the reason why we believe on the three pillars. So we are obviously and with not small difficulties, pushing all our companies to be net zero by 2040. Committed also, all our companies need to be committed with a 1.5 degree scenario, with science-based targets initiatives. So all the targets certified by science. So this is one part, but also on the social part, for example, we know that diversity in the region, especially in Latin America, is a challenge. In many other places in all over the world, but in Latin America it is. So we are very much pushing towards the diversity, not only in the executive management of the companies, but also in the boards. So as you can see, 45% of women in management positions, 50% of women in the workforce, and 45% of Afro-Brazilian, as many of the companies that, or some of the companies that we invest in are based in Brazil. 25% of Afro-Brazilian in management position also. And not to forget, and I have mentioned this before, that the G pillar is so important for an investor. From the point of view of, or the lens of an investor, is the very first one that is tackled. Is the maybe is the most the one that has been most pushed in the beginning, the G pillar. And that is very, very important for us also. So we are very much committed with the zero corruption initiatives. We are putting a strong compliance program in all our investees. And we are also aiming to have all our companies transform and translated into B Corp companies, yeah? Which is very challenging. But we really believe that this is the way to really create an extra value that is needed. No? So mixing up the impact of the investments that we do with also with the value generation, which is the end goal of all what we do. And as an example here, I'm going to talk a little bit about the transformation of Igua Saneamento. Igua Saneamento is today the third water infrastructure company in Brazil. We invested back in 2017 in a company that was very much distressed. and maybe with a lot of G challenges. And we transform today, the company is a healthy company in terms of financially assessment, but also is a company that has a huge ESG program, as I said, not only tackling the environmental issues that could be, the core business of the company as being a water company, but also understanding and trying to tackle the social impact of a water sanitation company. So giving access to water and to sewage to millions of Brazilians, it's a real social impact. No? So how we've done this? Well, I would say that you need to do this bottom up and top down. Top down is very, very important. The owners of the company like us and the CEO need to be aware of the agenda and need to push things, but also it's a bottom-up thing because you have to re-engineer processes, you have to rethink what you do and change the way in which you build up plants or source your energy or or do your sewage processes. Also betting on renewable energy. We in fact at IWA, we are committed to be net zero by 2030. So before the goal, the Paris Agreement goal was set. And well, again, having what we call, as I said, ESG in action, no? Which is really promoting and having the right KPIs, the right processes behind so that this is a reality. Yeah. Also, for example, let me also comment that we have another example, which is OP Health. It's a healthcare platform in Brazil where we are really conscious of the social impact of healthcare, right? Especially in Brazil, especially after COVID-19, where the inequalities have been rising in a way, not only in developed markets, but also in emerging markets. So at OP Health, we are aiming to build up a pure ESG healthcare platform where we are tackling as, again, the three pillars, not only trying to be, let's say, environmental, let's say, in agreement with all the standards and everything, but also tackling the social impact of healthcare and transforming the healthcare sector in Brazil. Of course, always with a G pillar very strongly focused. So, well, this is just in a nutshell what we do. Very happy to have your questions if you have any question or any comment you may want to. Okay. So they're telling me that the questions are going to be at the very end. So I hope that you have enjoyed with the speech and everything, and I'm happy to take your questions afterwards. Thank you very much.
We can now hear from Rodrigo Slaminski and Maria Rolim of the Rolim Law Firm.
This one. Good afternoon. I've been studying. Is it working? Yep. I've been studying a while the climate finance issues. I try to bring you some thoughts here. I work as a consultant, climate change consultant in Rolim Law Firm, and I also work as a head of ESG in a private energy tech company in Brazil. And I have this role to play here in Brazil also, but here in Latin American climate action lawyers, as in the work group of climate finance, and I'm trying to bring you some studies that I've been made, and I think it's gonna be nice to share with you. First of all, we're talking about climate finance. It is like the most important issue, I think, here in COP26. We've been in the other COPs before. It was also an important role we had there, but today I think, not only today, but in the next few days, we're gonna find out some great solutions that arise from climate finance. Naturally, we're looking some solutions to see how we boost these questions. ESG, of course, is part of the great solutions, and we're trying to fit Brazil in these questions, and not only Brazil, but also try to check some other countries, like countries in Africa, just in a contest. What I think is the biggest problem here, we have those three parts of GDP. First one, naturally, US, nowadays the greatest part is yes of GDP, and the second part is China, and those related countries close to Japan, India, and the third part, Europe. These countries take a great share of GDP. These numbers are from 2019. Okay. The amount of the shares, total GDP in 2019 is $84 trillion. And as a matter of comparison, we have for all kind of green industry only $4.3 trillion. I mean, all kind of service goods related to this green industry, the share is only a part of share is 4.3 trillions that we can stake from the entire GDP of the world. The greatest share of GDP naturally comes from OECD countries, and this is the most important part of the money arising from all goods and service. Today, it is something like 61, is almost 80% of total GDP, and they have right now something roughly 2 trillion a year to spend in investments worldwide, not only inside in their countries, but also outside. This is national budgets to investment. Hungary is in proportion, Hungary is the most important country, but on average, we have something like 3% of the entire GDP. And now we talk about those 100 billions. You've heard about it. It came from Copenhagen, 2009. We've been talking a lot about it. 100 billions from the states, public investments to address climate change, to tackle climate change. We didn't reach the number yet, as you may see here in the picture, but we are on the way to get it done. The problem is we're saying it is not enough, and we're gonna see why. Part of the amount is direct invest, and this direct invest comes from the public budget, and the other part go through maybe a public bank or investment bank close related to the governments. But mostly of these investments arise from the public budget. And the flows, on the left, we have the biggest donators, and on the right, we can check the recipients. As you can see, we have an early average much below the target of $100 billion a year. This is about 0.02% of the entire investments they have available to use. That's why we're talking about climate finance here at COP26. Part of the countries has a knowledge with the fair trade, fair share, Norway, Sweden, and Germany, for instance. But on the other way, on the contrary, great part of the countries did not complete this task they used to. United States is the most important country that must comply with the targets they had previously agreed on. What are the main takeouts we can reach from it? First among Japan was the largest donor with 10.3. India, the largest recipient, 2.1. The single largest country to country from Japan to India, around 16 billion a year went to mitigation only projects compared to 9 billion for adaptation only projects. This is really important to address climate change. And finally, great part of this share is granted from direct loans, which means it is not public investment only. It is somehow performed by the investment banks or other kind of instrument, not directly by the governments. How do we see right now? If we follow the actual pace, probably we're gonna reach within 2 years this expectation of $100 billion a year. The problem is this is not enough. Making finance flow consistent with the pathway towards low greenhouse gas emission and climate resilience development is different than 100 billion a year. Okay. Now we see the total amount, not only public budget, but also the entire budget from private companies. From 10 years ago till now, we have a steadily increase, which is, I think, important to tackle climate change. But as you may see, after this is not enough. The reach was 632 billions in the last 2 years, a 10% increase in the previous years. The great problem here, we still have money arising from not only public, but also private companies. This is not the main problem. It's just a matter of comparison that the pledges were related to the 100 billions from government budgets. And we need to, in certain way, tackle in a different way how we use this money and how we provide the entire budget to including to tackle different way of mitigation or adaptation, as you may see. Just to show you some difference from the way money is arising. On the left side, we have all kind of public funding. On the right side, private only funding. You see half and half, partial 30 billions on the left, partial 30 billions on the right, roughly. The most important parts arising yet from private companies or private related government companies. Governments still don't comply with the targets. What is the money we do have right now? 60-32. For a matter of comparison, this is the amount of money that you have only for fossil fuels. 3.8 trillions of dollars. This means almost 4 to 5 times more than all the arising money to green any kind of green financial project. You can share here the most donators and the most lenders, the most important lenders to fossil fuels. And of course, it follows the industry of consumption of fossil fuels. So $632 billion against yearly 700 only for fossil fuels matter. Okay, green financing all kinds, fossil fuels funding. It's a huge difference. We need to tackle this. This is really important to address climate change in all matters. The challenge, climate investment should count in trillions, not in billions. Whereas fossil fuels investment should virtually stop in these decades. No sector is on track to meet the required investment levels. No sector at all. Energy, transportation, garbage, any sector complying with Paris agreements. What do we expect? The expectations are close to something. $4 to $5 trillion. Least 454% as we spend right now. This is the amount we think we needed to reach partially the main goals of Paris Agreement. So from 632 trillions to 32 billions to 4 trillions 130 billions. This is the money we expect to have in the within the next 10 years, from billions to trillions. This news we just have right now, this news from today, we have a very important signalization of investment here. You can check that part of this investment are arising. Great part of the investment is arising from instead of investment banks and only part of from the government. What do we need to do? Next year's are crucial. The 100 billions must be seen as a floor, not as a floor, but as a floor, not as a ceiling. We need to change system as a whole. We should accelerate the process as you're doing right now in COP26. We need to look forward watching carbon market better than we're doing right now. We shall go on in different kinds of financing forms. We must report ESG matters. This is the G of ESG, as we just said. We must choose the right framework, which is the right framework. Of course, this is not the framework for one or two countries. This is a global framework. This is one of the greatest problems we're having right now. We need to go through risk management. Of course, you do know that. And returns and mobilization, it's quite important to show this number better than we're doing right now. Two great problems that we're facing today in COP26, from mitigation to adaptation. Mostly of the money is directed to mitigation projects that are related to energy, mostly energy, transportation, and now is the time to change to adaptation somehow in some projects. As you may see, great part of the adaptation still arises from internal issues or governmental issues, but the most important part is directed from private companies. This is not a problem, of course. The problem is that the government has indicated a solution through the Paris Agreement. Expectation we think we need to have from 46 to 180. And African nations believe financial to help developing countries deal with climate change should be scale up more than tenfold we have right now. Just because we're here, we're talking about African as well. This is Brazil adaptation at Dust Bowl this year. This is Brazil this year as well, Lake Drought. We're passing through in Brazil one of the greatest drought ever. This is deforestation in Brazil, the same year nowadays. And these are floods in Brazil the same year. This is adaptation. This is matter of adaptation. This is not mitigation anymore. The more we delay resources to climate action, the less part goes to mitigation due to imperative of adaptation of climate change issues. Kenya, the same problem, drought this year. Migration, Somaliland, the same problem, adaptation. Africa's 54 countries have contributed almost nothing to climate change. This means they account for about 2 to 3% of our emissions. There is no great urgency to cut Africa's carbon output. They need to adapt. They need to adapt right now from climate change. This is from yesterday. We're talking about trillions, and we received this news. I don't know if it's great news, close to 10 billions in mitigation, not adaptation. Cost mitigation, of course, it's good for the company, but it doesn't tackle at all the climate action and the climate change. We still have a lot of money arising from mitigation, of course. I work with mitigation, renewable energy company, which is the greatest part of the resources arising from climate action. Most of the part goes to renewable energy, remains the largest mitigation sectors, but low carbon transport is the fastest growing sector. Can you check Tesla's graph? This is 1 year ago. And today we have double, up to 1 trillion, as you may know. Over the past few years, we've seen a flurry of initiatives targeting net zero emissions and aligning this financing with Paris agreements. However, real economy investment are yet to show. We didn't show the money enough to tackle climate change. We must say that. We must reinforce that. It is important not only because we need it, but also because there's a great pledge. Key issues here: shifting investor attitude, long-term investment instead of short-term investment. It is the time to invest movements, fossil fuels. There will be a shareholder activism, as you may know. There will be also an awakening of financial regulators to financial risks. ESG, as we are talking right now, it is like the main issues. And least but not the last, clear and consistent standards and definitions. How to boost? To sum up, we do need to empower people. When I say people, we say from employee to all stakeholders, the entire stakeholders. This means stewardship and engagement. This means influence over current policies, potential, needs, increase overall long-term value. This is what we call in Brazil, bossa. This is what we need. We need to show what really important for the next generations. And we shall provide better communication between all stakeholders. Also, no greenwashing, please. We need to stop greenwashing. We need to stop saying we do not use lands deforested. We need to reinforce the G from ESG, of course. G from ESG is operation plus governance. It is environmental, it is social, which is operations for all companies, or governments plus governance. No greenwashing, please. Information, action, and flow, addressing the information gap, ensuring the financial and technology flows. Not only money, we need also technology. It is important that we have this trade of technology part of the play role here. And also creating expectations of sustainability information in mainstream into business financial decisions. Third, best in class shall prevail. Best in class shall prevail. it is important to choose impact investment. Of course it is. It is important to negative screening in the first place. I don't know. Best in class must comes first. Why? Because best in class shall prevail, considering there is best policies, best results, best governance, better solutions maybe. At least in the beginning, we start with best in class, and then we move for the second tier. And finally, as the World Bank said, after COVID-19, the Great Reset, which means no more fossil fuels, no gender inequality, no corruption, no deforestation, no killing indigenous people, and again, no greenwashing. Thank you.
Just quickly.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much again for having me here. I'm just going to complete Rodrigo's presentation. Thank you, Rodrigo, for your presentation. And just give an example of how we could invest in adaptation, and a specific example from Brazil very quickly, because I know we have many other people to talk. It's just a case study. In case I picked the one in nature-based solutions, which is focused on adaptation. Nature-based solutions are defined as actions to protect sustainability, manage and restore natural or modified ecosystems that address societal challenges effectively and adaptively, simultaneously, providing human well-being and biodiversity benefits. So the idea is to bring together all the benefits of investing in adaptation, not only climate change, but inclusion, and to focus on win-win solutions. I'm going straight to the example, maybe. I don't go for this, but most of the hazards to address are the intense precipitation and drought, which are focused in Brazil, are very important because we have loads of dams and hydroelectric power around. So it's not enough financing, as Rodrigo has highlighted. And I'm going to pick in the Itaipu Binacional, which is a very close to my heart example because I work a lot with them. And it was constructed in 1984. It is one of the world's largest hydroelectric dams, produced 90% of the Paraguay's electricity, all the electricity from Paraguay, most of it, and 16% of Brazil electricity. The plant is one of that generate the most energy in history, and with an accumulated production of more than 2.8 billion megawatts. So since 1984, the treaty, it is regulated by international treaty, and the treaty is starting to be negotiated in 2023. They have to finish negotiations of the new, let's say, Annex C, that is the price of the energy in the treaty. So what is the case? The case is that a case that reunited different stakeholders. It was, first of all, identified very early the problem that sediment blockage and unreliable flows during periods of dry would be a significant risk. So this part of identifying the problem very early is really important. And then it was set up a 15-year program that involved a series of sub-programs and initiatives aimed at improving water quality and in the Paraná watershed, which is really nice to see here because you can see the area in this picture, which was replanted to protect the water. So that's what I said yesterday for the one who had the opportunity to be here, that they work with water. So it's really important to treat the water and to inform the people that are around to maintain the raw material that they need to produce energy. It achieves a broad range of social and environmental goals, not only climate change, but include food security, poverty alleviation, health and sanitation, climate change mitigation and adaptation, of course, and biodiversity support. And interesting to talk about financing because a range of stakeholders were involved, and from equal parts like Itaipu, which means 2 countries basically, and municipalities and communities and farmers. So this cross-community approach is the idea, and we need to have more money, not only for mitigation, as what it said, but for adaptation as well. Thank you very much. That's an example. We have to get rid of all this stuff.
Thank you very much both for those words there. Can we have Bernard Brodbeck?
Hello, everybody. My name is Bernard. I'm the CEO and co-founder of WindG. WindG stands for Wind Energy, and the solution is a software solution which I want to present you in a moment. WindG is a Swiss-based clean tech company and acting globally. So maybe some numbers. You all know how much energy, natural resources are available to produce renewable energy. Wind and solar parks will generate $230 billion in the revenues in the next year. That's great. So the energy transition is taking place, but there is a huge performance gap. So we have analyzed about $1 billion in wind and solar farms on 4 different continents. And on average, we have identified a production loss, efficiency gap of 10%. And that varies a bit from plant to plant, but basically it applies all over the world. So what we do is we want to close this efficiency gap by data analytics. By applying and relying on data-driven solutions such as WindG, we actually help both governments and private investors in achieving their financial and ecological targets a lot faster and without any additional capex. Because what we do is we're analyzing the performance of existing plants and improving them by learning from the past. So, for example, by applying our solution on a global base, we will contribute to the Swiss targets of reducing 25% of their economy's CO2 reduction goals by 2025, just by improving the efficiency of existing assets. Our solution to this problem is a cloud-based platform, which is built for asset owners. So basically, we connect to these assets wherever they are, I mentioned we are on 4 continents today in more than 20 countries. We stream data. We combine this data with meteorological data to assess, first of all, the efficiency of the production, and then to report that to the guys in charge. And on top of that, also come up with recommendations how to take actions and actually improve the performance. The solution is a very easy to adopt solution. There is hardly no money required. There is no hardware at all required. We rely on existing data. We integrate data. And most importantly, we make full use out of existing data. So that is actually one of the good elements when we talk about making change and transformation. There are assets there, and there is a lot of data around. We don't need to develop a lot of additional data infrastructure. There's a lot of it out there. The value proposition to the owners, either utilities, government-owned utilities, or private investors, they are equally. We help our customers achieve excellence in asset management. I will come back to that in a minute, what that includes. We help them improve the overall production in the order of 3%, which might not sound like a lot, but again, it's fast and it doesn't require additional investments. When you look into an investment, an individual wind farm or solar farm investment, which maybe calculates a 5 or 6% project IRR, increasing the performance by 3%, it almost hits the bottom line directly. So we're talking about increasing production efficiency easily by 30 to 50%. I think one element, ESG, is very important. It's the thing of being a trusted partner. As so often in the industry, you have data imbalances. You have the manufacturer, you have the owner, you have the guys financing the assets, you have the operators. There are many different peoples involved, and there are significant data intransparencies. So it's important to the party responsible to achieve its targets that he has paramount transparency. And this is what we guarantee for. Maybe a couple of numbers quickly. I mentioned that we have looked into a bit more than $1 billion in revenue so far. We have actually achieved kind of 3.5% on average improvement for different reasons. I will go into one or the other example a bit later. And we currently serve 55 clients, and actually the numbers change in 20 countries and 4 continents. The problem is equally the same. The solution is equally applicable. It's manufacturer independent. And if you are one of those large investors like NG or Actis who invest on a global base in emerging markets in different technologies, this platform allows them to compare individual performance and set priorities. So this is a brief snapshot analyzing most of our assets, how they performed over the last 3 years. So what you can see in this graph, at the bottom of the graph, below the 0 line, there are here and there some assets which performance even goes down. That can be one-off, very specific situations, replacement of spare parts or major components. But in general, that's what the picture actually shows you, is that no matter whether it's a large or a smaller plant, the chances of increasing performance by applying data analytics is by far larger than losing money. So it's well invested money. let me maybe go a bit more into the detail. The way we usually do that, for example, if you pick a wind farm maybe consists of 20, 30 turbines. We usually, after collecting a lot of data, we start to implement our recommendations, and then we benchmark it and compare it with certain reference turbines where we have not implemented anything at all. And what we actually do is we learn from the past. So by applying proprietary algorithms based on, let's say, 1 year of data in the past at high resolution, 5 or 10 minute resolution, we learn from the past under which specific conditions every single turbine has proven to be more efficient. And this is then what we adopt over an optimization function to improve performance. That can be, of course, in a wind farm. Wind farm is an aerodynamic machine, right? If you manage to improve the aerodynamics, you will manage to improve bottom line production. It's as simple as that. It's like an airplane. And the good thing is we actually, with the same methodology, we can also validate what we achieved after it. And here, coming back to the explanation before, we look at 2 turbines, which we have optimized. We compare it with the reference turbine, and you see there has been an annual energy improvement of 1.2% with a certain insecurity, which we achieved compared to turbine number 8, which the reference turbine where we have actually seen no changes. So that makes the entire analytics as well reliable. So maybe looking a bit into the future and what this excellence in asset management is actually including. Of course, one thing is overall performance, right? When we talk about overall performance, it's on the one hand side, production efficiency, but then of course, more and more, it's also about the way we sell, we forecast and sell the energy production on the market. This is really an emerging risk with the PPA structure and everything. So that is one element. The other element, and this is what we hear, what we have heard before as well, is enable growth, right? We're talking to clients who still work on Excel base. They have assets all over the world and they do Excel exercises. I mean, come on, where are we, right? I mean, the data is there. Data integration is not an issue. So enabling growth means actually integrating information flows and make use of them. A fourth dimension, which is mostly underestimated, is organization and training. We heard that as well before, right? Stewardess, training, education. We need to empower people, right, to adopt and make use of data-driven analytics. Of course, many people in these areas are not necessarily coming with a master background, but we need to empower people to make use of the data, extract the relevant information to prioritize. And then the fourth element is process integration. Of course, better understanding performance is good. It's the basics. But we need to take actions, right? So we need to understand what the prioritized measures are which we want to implement, and then we need to track it as well, right? So that's also one element of the G, the ESG. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. I think we've got Marlos Batista next.
Good afternoon, oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to introduce a subject that can be seen as central theme of today's presentations, ESG data-driven. I would like to talk about movement. Every day, new situations emerge, new solutions are created, and new problems are solved. New technologies are developed, new futures are designed. We are looking for longevity, quality of life, satisfaction, and pleasure in what you do. Socialization, love, health, peace, success. We're looking for a better future. We are looking for a transforming purpose. But nothing is stable. No one stands still. Nobody stays still. Either you are going up or you are going down. ESG is a very prominent movement. And we are in synchrony with that movement. Movement along the lines of ESG. The environmental instruments of the measurement and prediction of the most promising paths for our city or our planet, the use of natural resources in water security and the prevention of natural disasters. My name is Marcos Batista. I'm an executive in a Brazilian technology company. I represent a company that operates intensively in the vertical markets of environment, agriculture, government, utilities. Codex is also part of this movement. Codex has transformative technologies that are harmony with the dynamics of the world. From registration systems, open data, data governance, machine learning, IoT, remote sensing, territorial intelligence, big data, decision support, analytics, insights that are driven like this. ESG means environment, social, and governance, but I incorporate two more components today, the people and economy. And I get the concept around the PWESG, something like this. So when we talk about people, we talk about individuals, you and me. We talk about people-centered decision-making. The target offers opportunities, but it's the people who innovate. Institutions have objectives, people have ideas and purpose. The world presents problems and the people looking for challenges. People are in the center of everything. Today, we center merit in the institutions, social things and collective, but must emphasize in personal. Sorry that's here. It includes economy, because nowadays more than 50% of the world GDP depends on nature. This is the right moment to change our economy model, and we need to talk about it and connect them. Talk about opportunities and risks and how can prepare ourselves to get a better response. But what questions should be asked? Are we asking the right questions? Yes. Based on this complex universe of data and decisions, I want to present a framework designed to systematize, organize, and orchestrate the evidence-based decision considering economical, efficient, environment and social effective, and institutional capable. This framework is three system bases: the system of knowledge, system of interconnections, and decision support systems. The knowledge systems is organized based on structured, qualified, and available data, and relevant of business for business, of course. However, the G of ESG comes in last in economy, but the first stage of the framework comes from the elaboration of the agreement among stakeholders, giving meaning to institutional governance and its main systems to data. I'd like to say that this framework contains 6 Ds. And the first one is digitalization. These moments can be seen as a part of the digital transformation. Here we perform the acquisition and collection of the data and systems and other interface. The data is treated and grouped into categories. For example, health, security, infrastructure, environment risk, and like this, and then published in a universal, accessible formats. With these whole situations together, we can construct SDI, spatial data infrastructure. When we work with these premises of data infrastructure, we can consider that design of a knowledge hub and incorporating the spatial dimension we call this SDI. This system is fundamental for us to have a decision based on knowledge and not on perception. The information becomes available, reliable, and secure. I will show some projects about institutional governance database. Valley, it's here, I guess, today. It's one of the biggest iron ore and nickel mining companies in the world. And in these projects, our goals is to introduce specific governance concepts for technical data and geographic information, establishing roles, best practices, and a robust data governance process. The second project involved environment, spatial data infrastructure. These platforms stores, updates, and share important environment information about federal district. The project established a development milestone for Brasilia, the federal capital of Brazil. Cisdia, that's the name. Oh, sorry. I put one click more after. Yeah. Don't play the video. Sorry. Oh, sorry, that's. Cisdia is based on the qualification of the existing database with the creation on infrastructure for environment spatial data. Focus on process of environmental regulation, permits, monitoring, and inspection acts. Cisdia's database have more than 13 million climate records. We connect data from orbital sensors, drones, satellite images, speed cameras, social networks, systems in general, device and mobile apps, and we make a system organic, like organic and dynamic in this way. When structured in this is SDI, we create connections from nature to digital systems, from technology to business, from service to citizens. These connections allows the database to be keep up to date. Engagement creates an active relationship of people and data. Through the integration, the systems, sensors, and applications. I like to see these components as an inclusion element because it is making information and access democratized. Here in comes the second D of diversity. Engagement tools promotes diversity. One example of is the urban project that engages entrepreneurs, the environment, and urbanism. The environment urban 3D plan platform is one of the tools to support urban management instruments and economic and social development. It adopts data from LiDAR and here, and a 3D georeference platform with urban infrastructure, environmental, and master plan data. Here, we have another project for iFood. iFood is the largest delivery food in Latin America. This project have a huge impact, social impact in a number of lives directly impacted. The main objective here, the main objective was to minimize the exposure to COVID pandemic of the expansion field teams planning and mobilizing the teams based on weekly data of new cases of COVID, hospital patient deaths, providing a solid statistical insights. This framework provides access to universal and technical business and real-world representation data, and the ESG dimensions enabling decision-making to be evidence-based, multivariate, and decentralized. Our third D, decentralization. With the access of the database, the expert knowledge, understand the business, it's possible to create advanced analysis and to support decision-making, and thus create a delivery layer of solutions, actions, applications for various purposes. Here comes our fourth D, decision-making. I will show some examples to starting with energy. This solution here provide our own solution for operational workforce and regulatory compliance for electricity companies. Delivering regulated asset management, design and construction applications, technical registration, and regulatory laws process systems. About regulatory things, the environmental permits by commitment solution, it's a procedure to allow the issuing of environment permits for enterprise with low environmental impact. The platform is integrated with digital and intelligent data and allows cross-reference between different databases, enabling a higher degree of reliability in environment analysis decision-making. About compliance here, I will show Vega. Vega is a platform for agribusiness production chain actors who need to monitor the origin and risks of social environment, climate, and agricultural variables of their operations. Vega helps them to manage the financial, social, and environmental and reputational risks of their operations, both in mitigation and contingence. Nowadays, we analyze more than 180,000 analyses per day to secure in credit, assignment, and insurance. This one for water, it's platform SIGA, are configured as important measurement and planning instrument for the use of hydric resource in Brazil. The platform composes what is stipulated in the national policy on water resources and contributes to a better use of the water. The solution impacts and improve water security policy for more than 50 million people. Here is Legaro. Legaro, it's another platform. It's a complete ESG diagnosis that will support companies in simplifying the implementation of ESG management and in their business. The platform is composed of ESG diagnosis tools, which allow to evaluate from the level of knowledge on the subject to score according to the main marketing sustainable index. Legaro provides visibility to the impact positives of company and stimulate responsible investments. Here I have project about Cerrado, a fifth Cerrado monitoring project. It's executive on 3 main fronts: deforestation monitoring, prevention of fire propagation, and estimation of the emission of GHG. The project covers an area around 2 million acres in the ballpark 26 Scotland. Here now I have our 5D decarbonization. This framework that integrates data and technology based on the social return on investment tool. This is a climate action plan tool, including GHG emission inventory, the climate change vulnerability analysis, and the climate change mitigation and adaptation plan. Here I will show Amazon Protect Solutions for integrated monitoring and protect areas centered using artificial intelligence and geosystem for monitoring, predict, and act. It's provide a dashboard with historical, weekly, and daily data through graphs, indicators, and lists highlights conservation areas, indigenous lands, and indicators of largest deforestation areas. Here I will finally here I will show the final design of the ESG data-driven framework here, considering of the Gs: digitalization, diversity, decentralization, decision-making, decarbonization, and disruption. Disruption by the approach of agility, safety, and consider of social and environment and economical effectiveness in strategy and operational management. I want to leave a question: why we are currently adopting ESG? We are adopting of constraint, convenience, or conviction. We should all adopt it for practice and business and in our development actions. I want to end with some teaser we learn about the using the framework. When we discuss about nature, it's not to stop talking about the primary forest, but to think prominently about to increase in biological relevance and 66% of areas with human activity. Today, 92% of regeneration is natural. We urgently have to accelerate the processes towards net zero in planted areas that today are only 7%. Only 40% of the countries have risk reduction strategies aligned. That's mean that 6% of the countries don't have a risk reduction strategies aligned. And the last truth that I guess, believe it or not, only 6-7% of ESG program create shareholder value. It's not about those programs, but how can we incorporate and generate gain with these ESG strategies in our business? I'd like to thank to our customers, partners, and people watching. Thank you, everyone. Excuse me.
Thank you very much. I think it's Edison Augusto Zanetti from Green Farms.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eder Zanetti. I'm a forester and the Chief Science Officer of Green Farm and ESG Green. Before I start, I would like to thank the South Africa government, NBI, and RTCC for being here in my name and of course in the name of Green Farm and ESG Green. Before I start, I would like to make two statements. And I will make them short. I will only come back if Zach asks me about them. First thing, decisions based on knowledge and not on perception. So I would say that fighting land use change in Brazil is greenwashing. And the next one would be like, fibers, grains, proteins. They are ultimately photosynthesis-based products. Carbon products. So the more you increase the photosynthetic production, the more you increase the consumption of grains, proteins, and fibers, the more we uptake CO2 from the atmosphere. That's it, Zach. So this is about winning the ESG race by joining Green Farm CO2 and ESG green projects. This is okay. What happens is in this race to zero, companies usually they cannot find the right place to invest. They don't have consolidate programs on their ESG programs, so it's hard to tell where they are putting their money, where they are getting as a result. And what we do is to work as sustainability as a service for corporate and now to individuals, hopefully. That the next figure over there is showing that, when you work with NGOs or the government to compensate your environmental impacts or your social environmental impacts, you have high transaction costs. So you lose some money to support the institutions. When you do it with a private company, I mean, we approach nature as a business. We have to deliver. we don't get this chance to split the money with someone else. You pay, we have to deliver. So you have a more value for the money you invest. This is the logic we work with. I mean, if you have a consolidated a program, an ESG program that brings results to your company, you increase your financial results. And we do that by approaching this social environmental compensation with a strategic view. We look at the territories. Now we consider the rivers the most important part of the territories. If you look at the territory as a human body, you see you have the rivers, and when you go to the doctor and you have a health problem, he will analyze your blood first. So the water is the main. And then you have in the territory, you have the protected areas. They are set up because they are spaces within the territory that has those nature-based assets with suppose the highest value. So the areas we approach are in the buffer zones of those protected areas. And usually when you have a river, the first one is the Paraná River we are working with, close to the Itaipu Dam. Because of this strategical approach, we get more ecosystem services in the same area. So we are working with carbon credits, biodiversity credits. We already reproduce and reintroduce 5 species that are threatened with extinction over there. And we also have a rehabilitation facility for animals and birds that are took from traffic. We rehabilitate them and return to nature. We also have environmental education programs. So we have also a social approach, recreation to reduce chronic disease, habitat, pollinators, scenic beauty. We work with 12 ecosystem services right now from the 65 that the IPPS say that are supposed to be contributions of natures to people that can be remunerated. What we do is we approach the area and we share with the companies a prime property fraction. So each of them has its particular slot according to the size of their social environmental impacts. Oh, it's me. We have partnerships locally, subnational, national, and international. 38 international partnerships and thousands. Over the last 5 years, we have won 11 awards. Again, local, subnational, national, and international. That one is from CEPAL, and this one is from this year from Carrefour. Those are the companies that are already have already joined the program. This year, we have seen a large increase on the search for ESG programs, which is very nice. Just 2 cases. So Carrefour is one of the companies that is with us. We have been neutralizing all the transportation they use, and they will be at the farm when I come back. So by the 16th of November, they will be back. They will be there, and right now they are doing around 20% with us from their greenhouse gas emissions, and we hope to achieve the 100% after the trip. And transportation companies, they are we are having a lot of them. You know, this is we are a reverse carbon dioxide machine. Yeah, the engines, they release carbon into the atmosphere. The plants, they take it back and glue it with water and turn it into fibers. We do that with double auditing. We have independent auditors that go there and verify what we are doing, and then the platform that registered audit it again. So we are audit 2 times, and we've been working with this platform for business with environmental and ecosystems goods and services, which was the first one in Latin America to be launched back on July 2010. Those are the other 9 that we have today in Latin America. And we are right now, well, this is the presentation that I did yesterday. So this was supposed to be an introduction for the one, but anyway, anyhow, we are now putting all of this into a blockchain systematic, so we can emit tokens and NFTs. I think Vale can have tokens and NFTs as well. We can work together on that. But we get the carbon, water, biodiversity, habitat, pollinators, sanitary, recreation, environmental education, the green marketing. This is really good for the companies. Research and development, the partnerships, and the CCUs. All of this with MRV methodologies that account for the stock and fluxes of all of those. We have a project activity document that states the social and environmental impacts of what they are doing. And we have a monitoring and validation and verification process based on specific criteria and indicators, so we can use them, put this whole package together, and we can have a token or an NFT connected to the ESG programs, which means that, you know, everything that you buy will have this return. And I think Brazil pretty soon will be selling grains, fibers, and proteins to the world that will have this carbon attached to it. Our production is very clean, as you know. We have a very clean matrix. We use the best technology that is available for land use. Right? So this allows us to have a very green production, and this can be attached to our products. So we will be selling to the world, not only grains, proteins, and fibers, but also carbon attached to that. And of course, when we put this in the wallets, we can have a more stable crypto coin. This is our team. We have successful businessmen and women, and also people with high level careers development. And of course, there is me. And that's the much that I would be talking today. Thank you.
Thank you, Edison. I think we've got Paolo. I'm really sorry for the pronunciation there. I'm sure you're going to correct me.
Good afternoon. My name is João Paulo. I am an environmental manager of the Portos do Paraná. We are a public company that administrates a port in south of Brazil. And I came today to show you guys some of our homework, talking about environmental and social development with our surroundings community and the landscape around of us. So for those that doesn't know where we are, in our home, I call our planet as our home. Here's Brazil. And in south of Brazil, we've got 3 states, Paraná, Santa Catarina, and Rio Grande do Sul. In the state of Paraná, there's a huge bay, which is called Bay of Paranaguá. We are a bit far from south of São Paulo. And here's our bay. The Bay of Paranaguá is about of 600 square kilometers of surface of water. And we are surrounded by a huge amount of rainforest, which is known from the few years as the biggest reserva of Mata Atlântica. And we manage 2 ports in that bay, Antonina and Paranaguá. And in that bay, we are surrounded by a lot of communities. The yellow dots are traditional people, traditional fishermen, handcrafts, and artisanal fishermen. And the blue dots, they are indigenous people that are surrounding us, and they are quite close, especially the blue dot close to Paranaguá. Those are the layers of the protections that we've got to deal with our programs and our activities. We've got a lot of conservation unities, national parks, state parks, and other kinds of conservation unities. So let's go to see how those dots are. This is our landscape. We are mainly surrounded by islands and mangrove areas. We've got traditional people that live exactly like that. So here's our port. Our port is the second biggest port in Latin America. But if we talk about efficiency, we are the first because we are 4 times smaller than the port of Santos, but we movement the half of the amount of their cargo. So our cargo is mainly solid bulk cargo, liquid, general, containers, and vehicles. This is the IBAMA, the organ of the Brazil that gave us our license. And when we take the license to operate, of course, we have to show them our impacts. What kind of impacts that we are provoking in the area, especially with the social people around and the environment. And when we show them the problems that are coming from our activities, of course, we've got a lot of different kind of programs to minimize and mitigate the activity. So we've got monitoring programs, social actions, and environmental control that I'm going to show you to see how we do that. All the images that I'm going to show you now is our staff working and the companies that work with us doing the programs for us. We have water quality monitoring program that works quarterly, monthly, and even 2 months. Not these ones, all of them that I'm going to show you. Sediments quality monitoring program. Groundwater monitoring from a lot of different spots. We do the monitorment in more than 32 different spots in the bay. The communication, the social communication programs, not just with the communities around, but as well with our staffs. And the outdoors that we do, promoting and showing the species that are in risk in our bay. The communication programs in the newspapers that circulates locally. The environmental education program with the communities. The children that came to visit us and to see how the port works and the programs that we do. And we do lectures with the women's in the communities, with the men's as well. We develop with them maps where they put on the map how they see the bay where they live, how things work. And we do as well some almanac for children to know and to see how are the species that are surrounding them and us, of course. We monitor as well the quality of the fishing activity. Every day, we see how amount of fish arrives on the beaches in 7 different spots, where they were taken, what was the technique of the fishing, and other kinds of things that it's attached with that activity. So here is the fisherman bringing with the canoe the fish, and the lady counting and asking him where he came from, how did he took that fish, and the amount, dozens. And we do as well traffic management program to avoid conflict between the transportation inside the city and the pedestrians and bicycles as well, that were one of the main circulating that people use around the port. And we develop as well to improve signs. We do the projects and we implement the projects to make better the circulation of the trucks, lorries here in UK, and cars as well. We take control as well of the vector proliferation with mosquitoes, rats, pigeons, and other kinds of vectors. That is doing every day. We control as well ship ballast water to avoid the contamination of the bay with the exotic species from other countries, diseases as well. And here's the way that we do. We collect the water and we check, and we have all the data registered. We're monitoring as well biota with a lot of different species, cetaceans as dolphins, planktonic, ichthyofauna, cetaceans. Those are turtles, dolphins, crabs, prawns, fishes as well, jellyfishes. We take samples. Those are monitoring quarterly. And those samples as well, we take from the rocks, we send them to the labs to see if they are contaminated by hydrocarbon substances or heavy metals and things like that. In the mangroves as well, we count the species, if the area is growing or if it's getting damaged for something, and with the diagnosis, we can do research to see what's going on and keeping the mangrove as it should be. We do bird monitoring as well. We take samples from the tissues of mussels, which are the best way to see if the area is contaminated because they filter the water. The monitoring of the mangrove, as I said before. We count the plants in there, if they're getting larger or not. And as well, as our port works for a long time, maybe more than 400 years, the activities is happening there together with the city. We have from the past some problems that we are fixing. We are removing things from the underground and improving and sending that contaminated stuffs from the properly place that they should be. Here's the solid waste management program that we swap. We do mechanical swapping. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you guys what we do. We are planning to do with that, to take that energy that today is wasted, and what we are planning to transform. trainings. Here's the machines that we do the mechanical swapping from the grains that fall. And we control as well the atmospheric emissions to see if the engines are working properly, if they are inside the law. As well, noise emission we control in all the city, not just in the port. We've got a safety and environmental readiness center 24 hours a day. If something happened in the water, we can take care in less than half an hour. And here's some programs with the community. The lectures, we listen them. With them, we see what's going on, if there's some problem happening. And with that, we take care as well, sometimes of problems that is not from our activity, but we help them as to install sewage systems, water conduction pipes for their homes, because sometimes we've got communities that doesn't have even electricity around us. Here's training in boat engine mechanic course that they asked us. They would like to learn how to fix, how to open a boat motor. And they are starting to do it by themselves. The dredging that they always wanted to see how was it by inside. We took the community, we put them inside the dredge, and they did a completely cycle of dredging to see how the dredge works, where we threw the material, the sediments that they are dredging, the lectures, and the program with the children. Even with the children, after they visit us, we do a competition where they can write some text about the port activity and some drawings. And in the end of the year, the 10 best drawings and texts, they receive a nice walking by the bay with some boats to see by the water how the port is, how the ships arrives in our bay, and not just by the city as they see every day. And here we are in South Brazil. Tomorrow I'm gonna show you guys the projects that we are planning to implement in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And finally, we have Inigo Cocuera from Convive.
Good afternoon. My name is Íñigo Orbañanos. Íñigo Orbañanos, CEO of Convive. Thank you very much for the South African government. Thank you for RTCC. We're going to talk about something extremely important, which is how to create sustainable communities towards net zero. This picture that you see here is a good example of what we do. These houses have a value of around $24,000, and people that live in them earn around $500 per month. So we have a high social impact, and we also have a high environmental impact. These houses that you see have been certified by the IFC with an EDGE certification, and these houses are net zero ready. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We represent a team that is also here with us. We have the chairman of Convive, Alberto Saavedra, and the director of strategy and sustainability, Ruben Kors. Here, we're going to talk about five important topics. First, who is Convive? Second, the global context. Third, our pledge in COP26 as EDGE champion, which is a recognition we just received from the IFC. Fourth, our strategy, which is creating sustainable communities towards net zero. And fifth, some conclusions. So who are we? Convive is a housing and sustainable community developer with high energy efficiency towards net zero. It has proven track record, delivering more than 3,000 homes to Mexican families. We're a company formed by a management team of partners with more than 20 years of experience. And our value proposition is aligned to the 2030 agenda and the SDGs. We have joined the UN Global Initiative as signatory since 2019. And we are actively participating in a program called SDG Ambition by the Global Compact, applying the methodology to develop a 2030 roadmap to our net zero ambition. Our mission is a better lifestyle for our clients, collaborators, and investors. And our vision is to be the best team creating sustainable communities towards net zero. So why this is important? The global context is important to understand. Sustainable cities are key to reach net zero. If we as a humanity want to reach to net zero in 2050, it is imperative that the construction sector takes accelerated steps to unlock climate finance. As a global context, cities consume 72% of the world's energy and produce 60% of the the greenhouse gas emissions. The world population in 2021 represents 55% of the population, and in 2050 will be around 70% of the population. And in Latin America, it represents in 1950 around 41%. In 2050, it will represent around 82%. So if we want to reach net zero, we need champions. We need construction companies that reach net zero in this decade to lead by example and generate the knowledge and the climate finance to make this happen. The third topic we're going to talk about is Convive as EDGE champion and our pledge at COP26. In this slide, in the left side, that's a certification we received from the IFC. We're the company that has reached a certification of EDGE Advanced, which is around 40% of energy efficiency, and is the company with the lowest price house with an EDGE certification. And around the world, additional to a case in Indonesia, in Kenya, and Haiti, there's Convive. And thanks to this important result, we have become a champion with the recognition of the IFC, the International Financial Corporation. This is our pledge. We're communicating right now, and we're very enthusiastic about this moment. We expect to build 10,000 square meters of certified net zero carbon ready buildings by next year. And right now we are in this right moment, we're building and having certifications each week. where we plan to build 100,000 square meters of certified green buildings by 2025. And one of the most important and difficult goals is to reach 10,000 square meters of certified net zero carbon buildings by 2025. That's something that has never done before with a EDGE certification. And we believe with the correct alliances, we can make it happen. Second, we will pursue to only build net certified buildings by 2025 on. Third, we expect to only build net zero certified carbon ready buildings by 2030. And fifth, which is the sustainable and social part of our pledge, we are building sustainable communities toward net zero, enhancing local resilience aligned to the sustainable development goals with two important objectives: 9 square meters of green areas per inhabitant and 30,000 square meters of land destined to sustainable community development facilities by 2025. So how do we plan to make this happen? We're going to talk about right now our strategy, which is sustainable communities towards net zero. Convive strongly believes in this idea of blended finance. Convive is building a strategy of blended finance, shared financing model with proven results, thanks to $1.2 million of non-repayable grants obtained by the KfW and a development bank in Mexico called SHF, Sociedad Hipotecaria Federal. We also are creating important alliances with NGOs and specialized advisors to strengthening our strategy. And we have three main areas of climate finance. First, impact funds. Second, sustainable grants. And third, carbon credits. The three main strategies that Convive has to reach our goal is first, the construction of energy efficient homes. Second, creating sustainable and resilient communities. And third, create a value proposition for our clients aligned to the UN 2030 agenda. So in the first strategy, which is have high efficiency energy homes, we are extremely happy and grateful with the German and UK government, which are supporters of a program called NAMA, National Appropriate Mitigation Actions. And in Mexico, they designed this program called NAMA Facility, which is administered by the KfW. The execution is the SHF the Mexican Development Bank. And at the end, the Mexican families through the Convive developer makes it happen. At the end, is a gift from the KfW to the Mexican families through eco technologies. And why is this important? Because for the client, additional to have an important reduction in CO2 emissions, there's also a great increase in the comfort in term, and addition, there's an important savings in the payment of water, electricity, and gas. This graph or this slide shows 5 developments that Convive is developing right now. And as you can see, all of them have efficiencies from 28% to 45% in reduction in CO2 emissions. Convive has been part of this great effort to contribute to the country NDCs. And today it is a developer with the highest representation of NAMA facility program in Mexico. Convive is now building 1,073 energy efficient homes with the NAMA program. And these resources have already been approved. Going forward, we have a plan to build around 2,000 houses, which we consider 85% to be EDGE advanced, which is EDGE net zero ready. And we have a goal that to build 15% of this portfolio as net zero, something that never has been done in our country. The consolidated and projected impacts to its energy efficiency strategy is of 4,295 tons of CO2 per year. And with this, we plan to design a carbon credit to reduce the need for grants and increase the monetization due to the carbon credits. This is 4 levels of energy efficiency. The first level that the world doesn't need is business as usual. The second level is 20% energy efficiency in houses. That's the first certification the IFC gives through EDGE. And then there's EDGE Advanced, which is the third level. Right now, Convive is in this level. It's also called net zero ready, because even though it's not net zero, with the 40%, then you can implement other investments like and reach to the fourth level, which is net zero. Convive is in the third level. And I said our goal in 2025 and 2030 is to reach net zero. But in the case Convive does not achieve climate finance, that's one of the reasons we come here to the COP. Unfortunately, due to the fact that the NAMA facility program has concluded in Mexico, we would return to the first level and the second level. So it's fundamental to find ways to continue having climate finance. The second strategy is to build sustainable and resilient communities. That's the way we do it is implementing what we call the life quality formula that contemplates 7 principles of design, placing the person and not the car as the center of the way we build and design our communities. The 7 principles is economic and social and environmental sustainability. Second, architecture with human quality and regional identity. Third, centrality. Fourth, connectivity. Fifth, mixed use and equipment. Fifth, density and diversity. And 7, innovation in public spaces. Our goal is not only to offer a better quality of life to the development of 3,000 houses, that it's a development we're building in the north part of Mexico City, near a very big airport, the biggest airport that has been built in the last decade in Mexico. And you see 4 different surrounding developments. Those surrounding developments, there's around 20,000 families. So the goal is not only to improve the quality of life of the 3,000 houses we're building, but also to impact the 20,000 families in the surrounding developments. The third strategy is the alignment with the SDGs. We strongly believe the most important, or the base, is the environmental SDGs, then the economic, because if you don't have the environment, then it's difficult to have the economic access and the social access in full potential. And in the development we're building called Privadas del Parque, we're aligned to the 17 SDGs and we're touching 45 of the targets in all, as I said, all the SDGs, impacting heavily improving quality of life. The actions aligned with the SDGs have 2 components. First, sustainable public facilities and spaces following the 7 principles of sustainable design. We're building 55 parks, the construction of 30,000 square meters of sustainable facilities and public spaces for the neighbors, and 9 square meters of green areas per inhabitant. And the second component is programs for a sustainable and resilient community, with a focus in a gender equity approach, objective of distributive and procedural environmental justice with a resilience approach, and urban regeneration approach in order to contribute to the bettering of projects surrounding and urban integration. As you can see in the left side, you can see many of the facilities we're building align to these important SDGs as health, education, climate education, the SDG 11, creating sustainable communities, etc. So how do we do it? We need climate finance. Today, an example, we're building 3 important developments of around 3,000 houses, and we have the finance of $95 million. However, if we don't find climate finance, we will continue doing business as usual in most cases. In the chart in the left, we find $6 additional million, which represents 6% of the portfolio. We will reach net zero or net zero ready, impacting in all SDGs in communities. For efficiency and community sustainability and resilience, Convive is already investing 51% of the investment needed. The additional 49% Convive is looking for aims for 3 things: getting to net zero, second, increase the number of energy efficient house, and third, increase the community sustainability and resilience through facilities and programs. As you can see in the left side, you can see that we're impacting in all the SDGs, and we have a plan with a budget for each of the SDGs. And how do we make it happen? Thanks to fundamental alliances with NGOs. Convive has created an NGO called Comunidad Verde Foundation to manage sustainable community facilities, parks, and social programs for the Privadas al Parque community, and the foundation coordinates a network of NGOs aligned to the SDGs. So what we do, Convive builds the community and provides seed capital for the foundation, Comunidad Verde, which manages the parks and the facilities, and the science programs, coordinating a network of allies for the operation as an important NGO with a fundamental ally called Roma Verde, Huerto Roma Verde, ARU, Alianza de Regeneración Urbana, a foundation I'm proud to be the chairman and founder, Educa, and other fundamental NGOs that you can see below. Without these important allies, we wouldn't make this goal happen. Oops. Oh, probably there's something here, but it was only a final slide. Don't worry, it's a final slide. So as a conclusion, in the face of the climate crisis, it is everyone's duty, individual companies, governments, NGOs, and individuals, to join the decade of action aligned with the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Convive's contribution is to create sustainable and resilient communities towards net zero. Through our innovation, capabilities, and climate finance support, we are improving the living standards of our communities, contributing to a more sustainable world. We come here to Glasgow to communicate our pledge and find the right allies and climate finance to reach our common goal towards net zero. Now I am going to give some minutes to our president, chairman of the board of Convive. Thank you very much.
This is nice, Justin, because if I make a mistake, well, it will be blame on Justin Alston. But anyway, thank you very much to everybody for being here and listening our message. I only want to stress 2 ideas of what we have been trying to convey this day. One is the importance of the financial sector in achieving the objectives of the Agenda 2030, financial system in all its forms is, as the example that he gave to us, Justin, is the blood that we need to move the world. We don't have a lot of time. It's a matter of urgency. And the resources are needed. The urgency is there. We need to channel somehow these resources in a responsible and transparent manner to fund all kind of initiatives that we need to do if we want to save the planet. We used to say that we should leave a better planet for our kids. Let's put it another way. We need better kids for the planet. And for that, we need the monies. So please convey to all you as our ambassadors, we need those resources. The second one I want to give to you is not in all the concept of ESG, but in the importance of diversity and inclusion. We will not be able as human beings to achieve our goals if we are not really aware and conscious. Half of population are women. If we think that we are all human beings, gardeners of this planet, half of those are women, and half of those are people that usually are not seen. We should make visible all those that we cannot see, and that's simply by the effort of being well aware that we are different, and that is a gift. We shall see that that diversity enrich our species, enrich our planet. We should go for that goal. We should see each other, see the value and the love that is in each one of us, carry that light that every one of us have, share that and create, because we are co-creators. We shall imagine which is the planet we want to do and work on that. We like these communities for our people. We are going to give a financial sustainability to those projects. We want to have happy families. We will go with the neighbors to change their world. We need the help of all people which is committed today to have the alliance, but also to bring conscience to each one of us. Thank you very much for listening.
Very powerful way of ending that session. So thank you all very much. We're running quite over time, so perhaps we can take 2 questions. I'm not sure if there's any on the YouTube or the Zoom. So if there's none on the floor, I can kick off. Nope. So maybe one for Bernhard. What do you think is the future of software solutions for renewable asset management? If you could come up, Bernhard, is he around? Bernhard? Nope. Okay, never mind. Second one I had was for Inigo and Convive. What are the biggest challenges to reaching your pledge that you just announced?
Okay, thank you. I mean, you were talking about the certification for low carbon, and I was wondering how much wood do you use in these constructions?
Okay. Our goal is for all buildings to have the certification, 100%. So that's, I understand that's where your question. How many of the house we build, we plan to do with the IFC certification?
No, how much wood goes into the
we in Mexico, we don't usually use wood. So right now we're doing a block of ceramic, which has much more efficiency than doing the traditional block. That's the way we build. And in relation to the biggest challenge we have to reach our pledge, I would say one is the coordination of the NGOs and help the NGOs be financed to do a correct work with the community. And the second challenge, which I think is the biggest, is to find climate finance around the world, because it's proven that in houses that have a value of around $50,000 or less, if you don't have donations, it's difficult to have net zero ready houses. So that is the reason why we are here. And we strongly believe that we can reach this important goal to make our pledge happen. Thank you very much.
Any more final questions? Nope. Well, thank you all then very much for coming. Also, thanks to the South Africa Pavilion and the National Business Initiative. If you could all leave your headsets on your chair or your nearest table, that would be really much appreciated. But thank you.